And welcome to the show. My name is Naeem Sharif, and this is the Al Islam and Community Issues Group program. Today we're doing part two of a show. We were talking about the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party Free Breakfast Program. And we went over some of the history of why we joined the Black Panther Party, and we showed some pictures and so forth. I would say the reason why I joined the Black Panther Party is because I didn't like bullies. I remember there was one instance when I was growing up. I must have been about maybe 15 years old or so. There was an accident not far from our home, and my mom thought that it was my stepfather who was involved in an accident. So she went out to see about what was happening, and then I went out there, and so she was trying to see who it was, and this police officer told her to move out the way. And so she just kind of kept looking, and so he started, poking her with her flashlight. And I really didn't appreciate that. So I went back to the house to see if we had anything, and we didn't have anything, which was probably a good thing, because when somebody messes with your mom, you really don't care what it is. So that was the thing. I just don't like bullies, whether it's people, whether it's countries or whatever, bullies. And, as Elmer was talking about in the first part, when Stokely Carmichael came to Seattle, he helped ignite a passion for learning more about our history and what could be done. So on that note, that serious note, let's talk about our trip to Oakland in 2019, and it was the 50th anniversary, of the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party Free Breakfast Program. So anything you'd like to add before we get into the...
I'd like to add
yes.
that we had our 50th anniversary of the Seattle chapter of the Black Panther Party in 2018.
Okay.
And that was an awesome event. And then to turn around the next year and have a 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party breakfast program, free breakfast program that was nationwide. And it was just more amazing.
More amazing. Yeah, it was. It was. Elmer, any pre-comments you have before we get into the photos?
I'd just like to give the listeners, the viewers, just a little bit of context and history about the Black Panther Party breakfast program. People often wonder, did we just do a program just for the sake of having a program? Let's feed some kids. But everything that we did was rooted in the 10-point program and our push to change the dynamic in the United States to foster revolution. And the very first program that we had was the Police Alert Patrol. And Huey said that the community could not survive while we were building a revolutionary movement if we didn't do something to help support them and allow them to continue to exist, and that we needed to help them survive the conditions within this country. And so the programs were dubbed survival programs pending revolution. And the very first thing that was on the table that we needed to address was police brutality, which is why we started the Police Alert Patrol, both in Oakland, and we had a Police Alert Patrol here in Seattle. And then the very next thing, of course, was the well-being of our youth, and the fact that young people were going to school without breakfast. And were being forced to try to learn on empty stomachs. We had to pay attention to that. One of the points out of the 10-point program says we want education that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. But we couldn't expect to put an education program in place without feeding these kids. And that's where the free breakfast program was born. And we ended up with a total of 5 children's free breakfast programs in Seattle that started originally, as I said, in 1969. And continued on until here in Seattle until 1982. We had probably some of the longest running programs of any of the Panther chapters in the country. In fact, central headquarters closed in 1982. So I would say that our breakfast program was probably the longest lasting breakfast program. We fed at least 2,000 kids a week, a hot breakfast program. We targeted those breakfast program centers in low-income communities. We fed whoever came through the door. We had the Holly Park, as Vanetta mentioned, High Point. These are housing projects. Yesler Terrace, Rainier Vista, and of course the Atlantic Street Center, right in the CD. And so kids, whoever came in, they not only got a hot breakfast, but they also got a dose of acknowledgement and recognition for who they were. The fact that they were kids of the youth and children that had long histories of freedom, of liberation, of ancient history in Africa, that kings and queens, they come from, to give them a sense of pride and dignity. And we encourage them to get their homework done and to study. And we often would drop them off at school, the late stragglers. But our breakfast program embarrassed the federal government into starting a school breakfast program. There are still people today, black and white, who don't believe that the Black Panther Party breakfast program came before the government-sponsored school breakfast programs. We embarrassed them into establishing a program. It was because of the efforts of the Black Panther Party. So I think that's important for people to know not only the history and the legacy of the party's programs, but the fact that we did it before anybody else did.
Well, that's good. On that note, of all the programs, we're in Black Panther Party, we're known for self-defense and so forth. But from what I understand, that the FBI, but especially J. Edgar Hoover, he hated the breakfast program more than anything else, more than our self-defense and all the other programs. Can you mention? You kind of touched on it.
Well, because the programs were the purpose of the programs were twofold. One, to address an immediate need that the community had. The other was to build the foundation for a revolutionary movement. And of course, with youth coming through our program, we didn't indoctrinate the kids. We raised their awareness of who they were.
Right.
And that meant that these little kids would have some identity. They would have some meaning and some purpose in life. And J. Edgar Hoover was he was maniacal around what he called the communist threat. When he first started COINTELPRO, which is an acronym for Counterintelligence Program, he did so in the 1920s because he thought that there was an influence of communism coming into the United States. He used that same COINTELPRO to bust up unions in the 1940s. He used it during the MacArthur era to chase actors out of Hollywood and to target them as communist infiltrators. And he used it to spy on JFK and Martin Luther King to collect a dossier on them to use against the Kennedys, because the Kennedys stood up for the civil rights programs and the rights of poor people, which many believe is why they both were assassinated, and of course King. And when he saw the emergence of the Black Panther Party, initially he paid little attention to the party because the party was a local organization in Oakland. In 1966, when Huey and Bobby first finished the 10-point program and began to organize in the Oakland area. And then when they marched on the Capitol in '67, that heightened the awareness of at least of the party. People began to take notice. By 1968, right after the death of little Bobby, and the Seattle chapter opened, that opened the door for what Bobby Seale, Chairman Bobby, used to open chapters all across the United States. And by the end of that summer, we had chapters in most major cities across the United States and almost all of the 48 states. Well, we were then a group to be reckoned with. It was in the summer of 1968, before we even started the breakfast program, that J. Edgar Hoover named the Black Panther Party the #1 threat to the internal security of the United States. And so they began to target these breakfast programs in different cities. The police would raid breakfast programs and chase the children out into the street and chase them home, or send them off to school and make them run in fear. But that didn't stop the programs from continuing to grow. And this, of course, backfired on J. Edgar Hoover when people thought that he was attacking police. It only made us stronger, and it made the community have a stronger resolve to support us, because we had supporters come from every aspect of the community to support the free breakfast programs. There's a photo that may come up of James Brown. James Brown was an early supporter of the Children's Free Breakfast Program, and continued. We built a 30-year relationship with Mr. Brown because of his support of the breakfast program. And he was an example of some of the leaders that came out, entertainers, political leaders, Congressman Ron Dellums out of Oakland, who supported the Black Panther Party and got behind the Children's Free Breakfast Program, which is why it was so popular and why it was so effective. And that's what J. Edgar Hoover hated about the breakfast program.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you for that information. Well, let's go to some of our photos and kind of talk about these particular photos.
Okay, so we're continuing on.
So this is the People's Kitchen Collective. These are two of the wonderful workers there. One thing about this whole event, everybody was happy, was full of, energy and joy. So those are things I got energy and joy out of that. Those are two of the hard-working sisters there too. Let's go to the next one. And I don't know who that guy in the middle is with the two wonderful young ladies there, but yeah, I had to take that photo with the People's Kitchen Collective. Now, let me talk about this, Elmer. This was a panel, and Vanetta, you can mention some of the questions that were asked about this panel. But Elmer, you were on the panel, and just a little brief explanation. Then Vanetta, you can kind of add to that.
It doesn't look like I was too happy in that picture, but I think I was trying to deal with the pain in my knee and the pain in my back and the pain in my foot.
Oh yeah, we're sorry about that photo. I should have looked at that one closer.
But I think that the purpose of the panel was for people in the community, and particularly youth, to come forward and ask questions about the Black Panther Party and the Free Breakfast Program. And those are all former comrades sitting there on the line there.
And it looked like, Vanetta, you had some bad coffee or something, because you would.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Vanetta's coffee in that picture. She may have been making a face at Alma.
But on that, tell us about some of the questions. We'll get to this picture in a minute, but some of the questions that the youth asked there on the panel, if you remember one question or two.
Well, they'd always ask if we,
or
why we joined the party.
Why you joined the party? Okay, yeah. Why you joined the party?
And what did you get from it?
Okay.
And
so we know why you joined. You said why in the first show. But what did you get from? Because I always like to tease you on something, and I'll just tease you again. So this sister here, she'd have a shotgun in one hand and a medical bag in the other. I'm just kind of, being out there on that. So she would mess you up and then fix you up. And that's how I remember you. She'd mess you up and fix you up. But the free medical clinic, stuff like this, is this why you became a nurse?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay.
And because, we didn't, our education, our grade school education was really lacking a lot of history, of African American history, African history, our ancestors and what they gave us. But even at the time of the Black Panther Party, I wasn't very aware of what our history was. So they empowered me.
Okay.
The Black Panther Black Panther Party empowered me to be more assured of myself and to take on a career as nursing.
And let me tell you, fantastic. I've seen you in action, and I was impressed and almost really, it brought me almost to tears.
But I didn't hurt anybody.
But you scared them.
You heard his body.
You scared them. You scared them. Okay, so let's go to the next photo. So this was inside the building at the park there. Elmer said, "Naeem, come on in," because he knows I like the Comic-Con and the graphic novels. So he said, "Come on in." So there was a group of African American graphic artists and comic book writers. And the one brother back there, I had his name. I had his name in it with his hand up in a fist. He did, and I didn't think about bringing. He did some graphic novels on the Black Panther Party. He did two, a part 1 and part 2. And if we,
they were Black Panther comic books.
Comic books, yeah.
Yeah, that he actually illustrated and wrote stories of. But it was his stories illustrated the whole spectrum of African American history, Black history, from slavery beyond, and leading up to the emergence of the Black Panther Party.
But it wasn't in Wakanda.
No, it was not in Wakanda.
It was not in Wakanda.
No, there was no Wakanda in that. It was not that kind of a Black Panther comic book. It was actually, it's interesting because I don't think anybody realized that was those two comic books. I bought both of them. I think Naeem bought them as well. That those were inside that building while we were having our event outside. Yeah. So anyway, just ironic that occurred at the same time.
Yeah, that was amazing. Now this was a photo of some of the intricate work that somebody did. This is looks like Star Wars stuff, and somebody made all these models and everything, and it was just the detail. Because I know I saw Elmer. Elmer was like, "Oh, looking up in there." Yeah, I said, "Let me go and see what he's looking at," and I saw what he was looking at. So this was pretty interesting. There you can see some more models of Star Wars, and it was just...
Well, the thing that you may not be able to see is that most of the action figures are black because it was this was the Afro Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And so if you look closely, you'll see that most of the action figures are black or Latino looking. Mm-hmm. So it's people of color that are in these scenes.
Okay, very good. All right, let's go to the next photo. Okay, so you guys tell me who.
That's Angela Davis, and that's
Big Man.
That's Big Man.
Big Man.
Big Man Howard. Big Man just passed here within the last couple of years. Actually, he was at our anniversary? Big Man come up, didn't he?
No, he didn't come
up. He didn't make it. I think he was sick then.
Yeah.
But Big Man was a longtime member of the Black Panther Party, and at one point, one of Huey's bodyguards. And also Angela was a member of the Black Panther Party. She was married to our Field Marshal, George Jackson, and was framed for the supplying weapons to Jonathan Jackson when he went to free brothers from San Quentin from the Marin County Courthouse in 1970. So she was also a member of the party.
Okay, all righty. So that's answered that question, because people always ask me, was she the member of the party? I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I didn't know exactly who. So this is one of the pictures of one of the youth at one of the breakfast programs there. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Yeah. Okay, so tell us about this photo.
That's Gwen.
That's Gwen Dixon out of the Seattle chapter, who after she had moved to transferred to Oakland, but as you can see, they're the kids. They're eating a good, hot breakfast, hot, good meal, nutritious meal, and this was a scene that was repeated over and over again across the country, as we fed thousands of kids every week a hot breakfast.
All right.
Kids with their Panther papers.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
See, they get this little young sister got the roller in her hair. She's going out to get down.
Oh yeah, she's a true. Okay, so this is me, and this is a sister from Kansas City, and her father.
Yeah, we call her Mamacita, Charlotte ONeal. Charlotte is married to Pete ONeal, who was the leader of the Kansas City chapter, and he went into exile, as she did with him, in 1970, and to Tanzania. And they still live in Tanzania. He's still under indictment, so he'll never come back to the U.S. But she performs African music, and in fact performed at our event, has performed here in Seattle a number of occasions at the Caribbean, Taste of the Caribbean restaurant. She's performed there. And in Tanzania, they actually started a Panther commune, where a number of party members who either went into exile or decided to leave the United States altogether moved, and they've started similar programs of the Black Panther Party right there in that village. The village has accepted them with open arms. They're members of their community and have been now for almost 50 years. And they have a clinic that they've sponsored, a school, feeding programs, and the community there loves them. One of our comrades, Geronimo Pratt, G, when he got out of jail after being imprisoned for being convicted of falsely killing a white couple on a tennis court, which was a frame-up. After 25 years in prison, OJ's lawyer got him free.
Oh, I see his face. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, and then he proved that it was a setup, and was awarded a $2 million settlement in a lawsuit against the California State Attorney, District Attorney, Los Angeles District Attorney, and took his money and moved to Tanzania to help fund a water program, a water recovery program in Tanzania.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that's legacy moving on.
That's
Continuing
legacy
on.
moving on.
Okay, so let's tell us about this picture. You recognize anybody, Vanetta?
I see big man.
See big man, and then there's what Mamacita?
Mamacita's in
And
that
then
picture.
the first woman in the Black Panther Party, what, Tarika?
Tarika?
Tarika.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tarika, yeah, she is.
Call her Matalaba.
Yeah, she's amazing, yeah.
She's also was one of the first artists who drew pictures for the Black Panther. Her, along with Emory Douglas, were the first illustrators of the images and cartoons and portraits in the Black Panther newspaper. Later, Asali also had some images in the paper, our own Asali Dixon.
Tarika, you're saying?
Tarika Lewis, yeah.
Tarika Lewis.
She also is known for her playing the violin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
she's-
plays the electric violin. She's very talented
Yeah,
sister,
she's
multi-talented.
Very good, very good. All right, let's move on to the next photo. Okay, so that's you there on the, that's Elmer, and then tell us about this gentleman here.
Doc Satchel, yeah, he was instrumental. He was one of the party members who started the very first free medical clinic down in Oakland, who inspired clinics around the country, including our free medical clinic, which is the only still operating original Black Panther clinic in the country, the Carolyn Downs Family Medical Center.
And it's Dr. Small.
Dr. Small,
yeah.
That's what I meant. I said Doc Satchel.
You saw that
was Dr.
Satchel there, yeah. Dr. Tolbert.
Dr. Tolbert Small. We had
Tolbert
another
Small.
brother named Doc Satchel who worked in the clinic,
Oh, what?
but that was Dr. Tolbert Small,
Okay.
and that's BJ Billy X.
This brother here does the archives of the Black Panther Party. Very valuable person.
Bill
yeah.
Jennings.
Yeah, Bill Jennings. Yeah, he does a lot of work. He helped put on this whole event. Okay, this is other brother Bunchy.
Bunchy.
Yeah, that's other brother Bunchy. Yeah, I met him before. I think in 2016 in Oakland.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's just move on to that. And then this is Emory Douglas, the artist for the Black Panther Party newspaper. So the reason why I'm in a lot of these photos, because when I'm at these events, I just hand somebody my phone and say, take the picture. And then you try to get your phone back. But Emory, his art is known, worldwide?
Yeah, Emory was on the original Central Committee. He's the Minister of Culture of the Black Panther Party.
Okay.
So he has, we say artist, but he was the Minister of Culture for the whole Black Panther Party. And so art was just part of that.
Okay. So this is Elmer. There's Dr. Tolbert Small, and who's the other gentleman, if you know?
Is that Steve?
Steve McCutcheon.
Steve McCutcheon.
Okay.
Yeah, and the brother from Kansas City back there.
Back there. Okay. So this was later on that evening when they were having a banquet, basically for recognition of the 50th anniversary, and some of the speakers there just did outstanding. I don't know if we have it on film, but that would be great. So this is Satura Ned and myself. Satura Ned does the Black Panther Party Power thing, a lot of work.
Well, and Vanetta asked me to elaborate just briefly. I mentioned that he was one of the members of the Lumpen, the singing group in the Black Panther Party, and one of the ways that we organized in the community, and which allowed us to tap into the community and identify what their needs were. Huey had always taught us that we had to do an analysis. We had to analyze the conditions within our community, and that the proletariat that is really a name for the working class people in a country. So the proletariat are people that with the jobs that toil every day to really cause the system that you live within to really stand on its feet, to survive or to thrive. But at the core of that group are what we call the lumpen proletariat. The lumpen proletariat are the grassroots people off the block, the people out of the community. And so we always related to the lumpen proletariat because those were the people at the bottom of the heap, so to speak, the disenfranchised. And so we, the singing group was named the Lumpen after the lumpen proletariat. That's where that came from.
That's good. Well, on that note, we have more information to cover and some more pictures and some really deep history. There's just some of the names of the people who were at the celebration banquet, and maybe if we do another show, we can start right there on that. So with that, Ms. Vanetta, we thank you for your time. Mr. Dixon, we thank you for your time. And we thank the audience for listening. We have more history to do to keep this legacy of the Black Panther Party so you know the true history. Thank you very much, and peace.
Peace.